welcome to Matters of Diversity with Dr. B. We're excited today to have with us guests from the UCF Police Department. And we're going to get an opportunity to just talk with them about just life during a pandemic, life during just this past 2020. And I'm excited to have Carl Metzger, who received his bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Florida, and his master's degree in criminal justice from the University of Central Florida. He got it right the second time around. Thanks goodness. Chief Metzger retired from the Orlando Police Department with 26 years of service, and he has been a member of the University of Central Florida Police Department for 6 years. The last 2.5 years as AVP for Public Safety and Chief of Police. Chief Metzger has been focused on making the UCF Police Department the most professional, progressive, and innovative campus public safety department in the nation. Also with Chief Metzger is David Zambri, and he is currently the Deputy Chief of Police at the University of Central Florida, and he has been on the police force for over 27 years and has either managed or worked in every area of the department. So we get a chance to talk to him about that. In addition to his local law enforcement experience, he has investigative experiences working national security investigations, previously serving full-time on 2 FBI task force. That's going to be interesting to talk about today too. Working counterterrorism on the Orlando FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, as well as FBI National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force as a police executive fellow and task force member at the FBI headquarters. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's of public administration from the University of Central Florida. He got both of those right. In addition, he has participated in professional law enforcement leadership development, attending the Southern Police Institute Command Officers Development Course and the FBI National Academy 259th session. Wow, that's a lot to say. And so we're gonna have to catch up on what you've been doing, Carl Metzger, because David seemed to have has a list of things that he wanted me to talk about today. So how are you guys doing today? How's everything?
Things are going really well, Kent. It's great to see the light at the end of the tunnel for 2020. I think all of us are ready to see 2020 in the rearview mirror. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely that. I'm ready. I've been ready for, I think since, March 12th? I think March 12th was the last time that I was on campus, officially working on campus without doing it like every once in a while, coming in and out. So we'll see when that all comes down and comes to pass. So a double UCF graduate, huh?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, when you start at a great place, you never want to leave. That's really what it came down to. Started out for my bachelor's, got my master's, and never wanted to leave UCF.
Excellent. So it's good to have both of you all here. We've talked quite often about just what UCF Police Department means to UCF. We've been on a couple calls before, and we talked on occasion. But I don't know how deep you can get into like the history of it all, or the information that you got from the FBI being on a task force and things like that. But if we can go deep, let's go deep. I want to hear about all of that. What kind of stuff can you tell us that is happening here at UCF, counterintelligence wise? I'm kidding. That will kind of make us stay the safe university that we are and we have been under your leadership. So Carl Metzger, Chief, just as an aside, and just to have some fun for a minute, what is it that attracts you to doing the job that you do at UCF and wanting to be here and working as hard as you do for our university?
That's a great question. It's being called. It really is. Growing up, it never occurred to me that I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to. My father was a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot, and I was really called to go into law enforcement And the Orlando Police Department was where I ended up and spent 26 years. But as an alum, I knew what UCF was all about. And so when that call came, that door opened, I jumped through it because I knew what a great place UCF was. And I haven't looked back. It's been an incredible ride. The people who I work with and the students that I work with have been wonderful. And although 2020 has been challenging, and of course we've had our challenges here at UCF, as you know, Kent, over the last couple of years with a change of leadership. But other than those challenges, everyone else, it's really been a meaningful, impactful, career. And to end up here at UCF, where I received my master's, has been really sort of the cherry on the top of the sundae, so to speak, right?
Nice. So the thing that's really interesting about all of that is, one of the mantras of UCF is that it stands for opportunity. And when you think about it, both of you all, having had your education here, working, and then to rise to the level you are at the police department right now, shows that, if you stick with it and you have perseverance in your nature, that these things can happen, right? That you can kind of be in these locations and doing the work that you're doing. So I'm just kind of thrown off by this thing that's on your shoulder here, that's sticking up.
Okay. We could talk all about equipment, and I mean, I've got lots of.
That's there right now. What are you getting ready to do? You're gonna have to leave me if something happens.
And this is just a microphone for a radio, and it's in an easy to access location up on my shoulder. A lot of times when we are in dress uniform, we'll take off the microphone. But I leave it on. I'd say 99.9% of the time. I don't even think about it. It's just part of the gear, and so if something does happen, I'm a fully sworn police officer, and I'm trained and I'm experienced. If something happens on campus, I'm going. Yeah. And I receive the same level of training as every other cop here, and I'm going to do my job, and if I need to go in and risk my life to save our students, faculty, and staff. That's what I'm going to do, and right. And we all do the same thing, but it's just a microphone that you see here, Ken.
Yeah, that's cool. It's just like I was sitting there. I was like, I was getting ready, secret going on there. But one of the things that's always kind of impressed me about police officers in general is that you guys carry a lot of stuff.
We do.
It must feel like the weight of the world on you when you're carrying it around. So can you talk a little bit about that, David? And what is it like to kind of be strapped with all this stuff, like for a good chunk of the time that you're at work, right? And so is it heavy, or is it like, or does this become a part of your body? What is it?
A little bit of both. I think you get used to it, but it really is heavy. But you see it. You just mentioned that you see all the stuff we carry and we have on. I think one of the most impactful things about being a law enforcement officer, being a police officer in uniform, is wherever you go, you are noticed, right? And I think that's one of the most impactful things, because it gives you that opportunity to talk to people and use that as a platform for what you do, or sometimes to feel a little pressure, right? But I guess it weighs on you, definitely weighs in your hips, your belt. In fact, for a lot of our officers who are on patrol the whole day, we've given them exterior carriers. So that way they can take everything off the weight of their gun belt and put it higher up for health purposes, really. Okay. So yeah, it definitely makes an impact on how you sit and how you feel all day. And it does it, there's no doubt.
And it's about 25 pounds of equipment, Kent, that we wear between the belt and the vest. 25 pounds. And, believe me, I've weighed, before and after just to see, how much it really was. And like Dave said, you do get used to it. But some of our officers, and it's a problem in law enforcement with lower back issues. Right. So we, like Dave said, we've tried to adjust to that. And actually the whole industry has, by using the vest as a way and a means to carry a lot of the equipment versus the belt, which puts it lower and puts it on the lower back.
So I imagine that you all train with these things then. So,
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
there has to be some level of getting in shape and being ready to be able to jump up and run, like you just said, at a moment's notice. So when you're actually learning how to become, or when anyone who's interested in becoming a police officer, when they're learning how to become a police officer, besides just knowing all of the ins and outs of what the job is, the criteria, the guidelines, the things you all have to, the protocols that you have to follow, when you go out and do actual, I don't know, drills or whatever it is that they call it for you all, I'm sure that you are kind of at your heaviest so that you can kind of see if you can run a mile or 2 miles or whatever have you. Is that something, am I just making this stuff up, or is that something that you all have to do?
Dave, you want to jump on that, or I can address it?
I'll hop in just a little bit. I think you're right. We do a lot of training in our uniforms and in our gear. And we also do an annual physical ability test for officers. And beyond that, a lot of what we focus on here is not just the mechanics of it, but also that resiliency and feeling physically healthy, mentally healthy, because it's just as important to be mentally healthy as physically healthy. Mm-hmm. And I know the chief is an avid runner, so I'm sure he can definitely speak to a little more of the physical fitness portions.
Okay, all right.
Oh, but yeah, we conduct annual physical abilities test. And if you ever drive by the stadium and you see a couple of police cars out there, and we have a little wall that we have to jump over, and little hurdles and some cones we have to run between, and then we have to drag a 150-pound dummy, 50, it's 100 feet, and then do some sprinting and into and out of a patrol car. And this is an FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement test, and there are specific criteria on what constitutes a passing score, and our officers have to pass that every year, or they're not entitled to get a raise. So there is certainly an incentive to keep yourself in some sort of shape, right? Because really, you have to have some minimal level of fitness to do this job.
Right.
And if I'm struggling with someone, let's say three stories up, and someone has to run up 3 flights of stairs to come help me, I want to make sure they're capable of doing that. And and certainly, our campus community deserves, fit officers to serve them. And this is one way we ensure that happens.
Excellent, excellent. So the physical part of it is really important. What about the mental component to healthcare for police officers?
And Dave hit it right on the head. The mental piece is very important, and it's become more and more important with 2020 sort of refocusing on how important that is for law enforcement officers. More officers have died by suicide this year than by gunfire, by being murdered. Mm-hmm. And I think we're human beings like anyone else, and COVID has stressed out our whole country and the whole world, in fact. And we're not immune from that. And then you throw in the pressures of the job that have existed for forever, and mental health as just health care is important to us. So right. We stress mental health all the time, and it's whole body health, and the fitness, the diet, the exercise, the sleep, and then we often we talk about counseling, and we're remove that stigma away from counseling, and I'll say it right here, I've gone, and it's important, and we want to make sure that we're all the best police officers we can be, and in order to do that, we need to take care of ourselves first. Right. And if we're not fit, mentally and physically, then we can't properly serve our campus community. And we emphasize that all the time. And we set an example, and we want to make sure that our officers know it's okay to not be okay. Go get checked out, go talk to someone. And we offer a variety of different choices and options for them on how they can do that. And I think that we've done well when it comes to that. Dave, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is everyone can have a bad day, right? But we don't want to have a bad day when we're interacting with the public. That's
Right.
critical. And we want to make sure that we and our officers feel good, feel resilient, and know how to deal with the public. They know where they are as far as in their emotional intelligence and how they're going to react and how they feel. Because again, it may be to their 10th call that they've gone to, but that one moment matters to that individual, and you have to give them the attention and the care they need when you respond. So our philosophy has generally been, like the chief mentioned, we take care of our officers so they're feeling good, feeling healthy, feeling well, so they can take care of our community. It takes a village, Ken, and Kent, and that's what we try to do. Really bring that to the public by caring for our officers, and we seem to be very successful at it.
Well, that's really important, and that's good to hear as a counselor educator. That's my training, and I work with counselors to kind of help with that mental health, that mental wellness that is necessary in all aspects of life. And so I can imagine as a police officer that there is added stress to that on a day-to-day basis, that there's something that could come up or something that's going to affect your life situation, regardless, even though you're giving back and you're providing service to the community. And in terms of service to the community, can you talk a little bit about what has UCF been like since we've been on this lockdown, so to speak? It's December 23rd. We're about to go into the holiday season. But up until this point in time, we've been here, 10 months or so, dealing with the university community, while we kind of been, some of us here on campus, some of us not, a majority of us not. So, but what has the campus been like for you all in terms of the service you've been providing while we've been working through this pandemic?
And that's a great question. And with the depopulated campus, the calls for service has definitely gone down. But a couple of categories have not. One is our mental health calls. And while we've had many fewer people on campus, our mental health calls have been the same. So if you look at as a percentage of the population, I think more people are stressed out than we've ever seen. And so when we get those calls, we go out and we get the services and the care for the individual that we respond to. And I'll just say, no one does, police agency does mental health better than the UCF Police Department, because that is one of those, really life or death type calls that really makes an impact. And so many of our students are stressed at various times, and they're in crisis, whether they're away from home for the first time, or experiencing failure for the first time, or a relationship problem, or substance abuse. I mean, you just fill in the blank.
Right.
So many of them face that stress, and we want to help them, get them the care and treatment they need, and get them back into the game if they can, right? And we've been, very, very successful. Every one of our officers goes through crisis intervention team training, CIT. That is the gold standard of training for mental health. And we've been doing that for the last 6 years. And we've been so successful, and we've saved so many lives that 3 of the last 4 CIT Officers of the Year for all of Central Florida, and we're talking about the Tri-County area, were from the UCF Police Department, beating out the big agencies, the OPDs and the Orange counties, because we do it so well. And our officers do it better than anyone because of the training and because of the practice they get, because they get it almost every day. Dave, you want to weigh in?
Sure. It's been a little quieter here, right? We have about 8,000 students living residentially, but that doesn't take away that there's an outside world, and there's people out here, and our students need police officers to respond in need. And also initially at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a number of individuals who enjoyed coming out to the campus to try to steal things from our students, such as bicycles and break into cars. So that still happens. Fortunately, we're out here and caught a number of them. So depopulated campus doesn't mean no one's here, and it's important that our students feel our residential folks as well as faculty staff that are here know that we're here to respond if they need help and assistance. And I think that's really important. That's part of, it's almost like a small town right now. I started 27 years ago when we only had 26,000 students. So it almost seems a little bit like that now to me as far as the residential population.
So it seems pretty interesting that people who have criminal activity on their mind don't necessarily think about the fact that the university or just the city or whatever is protected, right? That we take care of our business when it comes to safety and making sure that everyone has their well-being and is taken into consideration. What are some of the misnomers that people have about police officers on campus? And that, they can go and steal a bicycle or whatever have you. What are they missing when they don't realize that, you have to be an incredibly smart person, right? I would think to get one to pull the wool over a police officer's eyes when it comes to crime and things along those lines. So, and I'm not trying to give you, to give me some secrets on how to be a criminal, but what are they missing when they think that they can just get away with doing some of the most outrageous things or egregious things on college campus?
I think first, I think they're thinking depopulated campus means fewer witnesses and easier to get away with whatever crime they want to commit. Right? That's number one. And number two, I think that even before the pandemic, some criminals, they think that perhaps that a campus police agency maybe not up to the task of getting them. And what they don't realize is that our officers, because we have a patrol area that's quite small compared to a city or a county, they know this campus better than anyone. My police officers, and they're very good at what they do. And when it comes to investigating, we have a little bit more time on our hands. And what in a case that might not be a big deal to a city or county agency is a big deal to us. So we're going to investigate that thing to the nth degree and identify the person if we can, and and hold them accountable for their crime. So that I think they're a little surprised when we'll take a bike theft and we'll work it, like a murder case, right? And all of a sudden, they're caught and they're saying, "Holy cow, that never would have happened at OPD," right? So, so that's a couple of things that come to mind.
So there's a misnomer, right, that you all are not necessarily really police officers, right? You wear a uniform, but in all reality, you guys are not as the ones that would be doing the actual police work in, say, Orlando proper, so to speak. Why is that such a misnomer? Why do people think that people who work on a college campus are not as adept or as, I guess, police oriented, or I don't even know what the right words would be, but that you all don't necessarily have what it takes to do a good job?
I'll just, yeah, I know Dave is chomping at the bit. I'll get you second crack at this one. Ken, I'll say that we are a medium-sized city when we're completely up and running. When UCF, we're larger than most of the cities in Central Florida, other than Orlando and maybe Winter Park during the day but when we fill up, during the day, during like a fall or spring semester, we are a medium-sized city, and we have medium-sized city crime, and we have police officers who know how to deal with that crime. And we, like you said, we're fully functioning. We're an accredited police agency. We have the same level of training as any other police department, sheriff's office in Central Florida and beyond. As a matter of fact, we receive a lot more training in some areas than most police agencies, with mental health being at the top of the list. But we do some things really, really well. Another one that we do really well is threat management, where we have some individuals who have ill intent, and they don't come here just to steal something. They have in mind to do something more heinous than that. And we've been able to thwart, would-be active shooters before they have a chance to get onto campus and hurt people. And we have a team of detectives who do it better than anyone, and we are a model agency for that as well. So, yeah, again, back to your point, we are a real police department, and we're very good at what we do. And a lot of criminals, when they come here, they're quite surprised to figure that out the hard way.
And so the people who are working here or going to school here should feel really safe that you all are on the job, right?
Absolutely.
What do you want to add to that, David?
I was just going to add, there's always been a misconception in higher education and higher education institutions, just like no institution is the same. If you look across multiple states, some states there's law enforcement officers at institutions, other places there's not. If you look at a small college, a private college, they may not have full-time law enforcement. So I think there's just a misconception across the country of standards and how high they are for instance, the state of Florida and the state institutions, that we are just like a municipal agency as far as our training and professionalism. And like the chief mentioned, I think we have a higher standard of care as far as how we investigate and what we do. So I think there's just a misconception of what's out there in higher ed, just because of all the discrepancies out there and across state lines and even across institutions. Right. And most people just don't see it or know about it until they go to a professional institution where they have that kind of service.
Excellent. So the pandemic has exposed a lot of different things. In many cases, there's been what people are calling a double pandemic, and probably other terminology that they use for that. But in Black and brown communities, there's been struggles with police departments and police officers, and I'm not going to be blind to the fact that there's probably problems here on our campus as well, between Black and brown individuals and the campus police. So what are you all doing to kind of bridge that gap and to kind of build relationships with individuals who kind of have maybe thoughts or feelings about what the police officers represent and their own safety and their concerns about maybe being over-policed or things along those lines?
And great question. And I'll just start by talking about community policing. And really, it's not a new concept, but it is a concept that is being pushed harder, in the post George Floyd, world, right? And I'm proud to say that we have practiced community policing, at least for the entire 6 years that I've been here. And we say that we have community policing on steroids here. That we emphasize relationships more than enforcement. It's more about getting ahead of it, getting to know people ahead of time, and working with our campus community to solve problems before they fester into something worse. Right. So we practice that, from year to year. The hard part for us is we just have to keep up with the student population, and we have that turnover of 25% of our student population turning over every 4 years, or every year. So we just have to maintain that, and sometimes that's the challenge, is getting to know our students again, when we have a new group coming in. Additionally, we do have a little bit more time on our hands sometimes, not always. Fall semester during football, I mean, we're busy, but we have summertime, and we have sometimes in the spring where we do have time. And the training that we provided our officers over the last 6 years or so since I've been here, I think has really helped bridge that gap. It starts with fair and impartial policing. We were one of the first agencies in Central Florida to invite Lori Friedel, Dr. Lori Friedel from USF, nationally recognized expert on fair and impartial policing. She, her team recently taught NYPD, all 37,000, and others. I mean, this is recent, like at least over the last year. We've been doing it for 6 years, and we actually brought her back in, and we said, look, I know we did it, but we really need a refresher. And they said, well, we don't have that, but you know what? We'll put something together for you, and we'll roll it out. And we piloted that, and now it's something they do all over the country because we innovated that. And so we were doing that again. We have some officers who haven't been through it, some new officers, and we're going to be providing that training to them. We're going to be doing another refresher. We partnered with our criminal justice department, and we invited them in, and they're experts on procedural justice.
Okay.
And what that looks like. And they put on a class for us that was specifically tailored to the UCF Police Department, so that our officers understand what that means and how to apply that. And it was very beneficial to us. But again, another innovation, but another way for us to prepare our officers and make sure that they understand how to best deliver fair and impartial services to our campus community. So I think our officers get some of the best training in regards to that, and they practice it every day. And so we really emphasize that, and it's important to us and our culture.
And so what does that look like in terms of, so if there's a student organization that is wanting to kind of talk with you all, what do you all do to try to help build those type of relationships?
And I've been doing all the talking. I'll let Dave jump in on this one.
I hope David would say something.
No problem. Well, I think really what we've done, and historically we've done, and not just recently, we've really tried to connect with our students, whether it's through the Office of Student Involvement, through different groups, and try to give our student body a voice. And recently, after George Floyd, there's been a different feeling on the campus as far as activism, because if you've been around UCF for many years, UCF was not a very active community as far as that social activism, and students really wanted to have their voice and speak out as much. So what we did is we made sure to listen to them. So we just didn't let time go by. We scheduled time with them and said, well, tell us what your concerns are. Tell us what you want. Tell us what we can do differently and better. I think based upon a conversation with yourself or some of the student organizations, we implemented 8 can't wait into our policies. We didn't talk about it. We saw that it was actionable. A lot of it was things we already did. It just wasn't placed in policy as clearly. So we listened to the community, and that's really what we want to do, is listen, because what my feeling is, and I've worked here a long time, is that our students don't want to hear a yes. They want to see action. So that's what I think resonates with the students the most. And they're our constituents. This is their police department, and I say the students, faculty, and staff. But we have to listen and we have to respond appropriately. And I think that really makes the difference to our student body and those who want to be heard.
So do you all have like operations at the College of Medicine, UCF downtown, or the satellite campuses? What is your relationship with those entities of UCF? Well,
we do. We have operations downtown, Rosen campus, at College of Medicine. What's interesting is downtown, and you're familiar with the Paramore communities there, and one of UCF's commitments was really interacting and engaging the Paramore community. And, our police department, which is down there, really, our commander and the staff down there really bought into that. So, he set up a time for us to go visit the Wells-Built Museum down there and learn about the historic Black community in downtown Orlando, and really get a feel for the area and understand better. Mm-hmm. And also they've taken the opportunity to work with some of the youth down there and really connect with them. And what was interesting is they went out to the school, and initially a lot of the students weren't too excited. They're like, they thought it was a little questionable. And then the response we got was, please come back. So that's really what you want. You want to engage the community, put out your hand and see how it goes, and maybe have those tough conversations and have those ways to meet people.
I grew up in a community where police officers and the community were like bosom buddies. You saw them, in events and community-oriented type things, and it was never police officers, us against them type of a situation. Do you see that happening? I think there seems to be some opposition in a lot of communities, but do you see that happening again, where police officers can be a legitimate part of an environment so that people don't see the stress or the opposition so strongly?
I think that it does happen in certain parts of the country. And I think it's been happening and it's happening today. And I think that, but I think it needs to spread and become commonplace again. And, with the advent of patrol cars and radios, it's become less of a, like the beat cop who everyone in the neighborhood knew.
Right.
Of course, it takes a lot more cops to do that, and that costs money, right? And so, but we're fortunate here on campus that we can do that, and our officers, do engage with our student, faculty, and staff, and are part of the campus community.
Right.
When I look back on my career at the Orlando Police Department, we did the same thing. And between pickup basketball games and races and community events and barbecues, a lot of officers did embrace that. And I can't tell you how many times that's paid dividends when it came time to ask about a crime, particularly a crime of violence. Usually it would be a murder, and if I had to reach out because people knew me and trusted me, it was easy to make that call and get the information I needed to solve that crime. But without that relationship building, you're dead in the water.
Definitely. So maybe something fun right now. What is your best memory? What is like the best thing that happened while you were at work that that you think back on with like either pride or it just makes you smile because it happened when you were at work or on duty?
Dave, I'll let you go. I'll let you jump in on that one. I have one, but
really, what makes me feel the best is I've been here for a long time, like I like to mention, and I say that because I'm really proud of the organization and proud of how far we've come, is to see individuals who work here who are recognized for their successes. We have Sergeant Matt Scott, who started out here, and he's progressed through the organization, and he's part of the UCF community. He's served on different faculty and staff councils, and that's really what you want to see. And there's a few others. We have great people like our accreditation manager was the accreditation manager of the year across the state of Florida. So that's the kind of people we attract. One of our officers was the DRE, which is Drug Recognition Expert of the Year for the state of Florida, and he's an instructor. So seeing people gravitate to UCF as the place to be and have their career, and who are experts in their field and the industry that they serve, is nothing makes me happier to see, because I feel, if I leave the agency, I left it a better place, and hopefully I was a little piece of that and their success. And I think that's really what makes me the happiest when I come to work.
So is there one thing that you were involved in though that gives you like pride that you got to see it happen or be a part of?
I think probably the most fun, when we talk about fun, was college game day.
Okay.
I think that was the most fun to be part of, and that I'm proud of, because so many people got so much out of it, and it was such a big experience for those sports fans and football fans. I think that would be something that really was just a great moment in time at UCF.
All right. Chief?
And I have a lot, but I'm gonna actually, I love Dave's answer, because I was leaning that direction about leaving a legacy, and I feel like I was able to leave a legacy at OPD, and I want to leave this agency better than I found it, and I will. And I don't think any campus police department can hold a candle to us. I really don't. But when it comes to an incident, I remember back in the day, in Paramore, and Paramore could be a rough area. And crack cocaine was the drug of choice back in the days when I was on the street, and people would run, and we would chase them and catch them and dust them off and say, hey, you're pretty fast, but you can't beat the radio, and treat them with dignity and respect. And I remember one particular young man who I caught and treated him well. I would say that it was probably a month later, one of our officers was getting his butt kicked, quite frankly. And this young man, and I want to name him, but This is the drug dealer. This is a crack cocaine dealer. He sees this officer with a person on top of him, punching him and getting the better of him, and he's losing. And he goes and he pushes the suspect off of the police officer and helps to subdue the suspect. And that young man ended up getting a good citizenship award. And when they asked him, well, what, you were arrested a month ago. Why'd you do that? He said, because they treated me, with respect, and they didn't treat me bad. This is part of the deal. If you're going to sell crack on the street, there's a chance you might get arrested, and that's part of the cost of doing business. We get that, but officers who treat us with respect, we're going to treat them with respect back. And so that was something, even though, I didn't benefit directly because of my actions, I felt like I helped that other officer. So that's always stuck with me as something that I was proud of.
Excellent. So now I'm going to ask a really crazy question. What is the absolute crazy, without giving up someone's, identity or story or whatever have you, what was the most craziest thing you witnessed while you were on duty?
Okay, I'll jump in first. And this jumped out like 3 o'clock in the morning, driving down Dixie Belle, which is a street southeast Orlando. I saw a woman completely naked running down the road. And so I stopped and tried to find out what was going on. No one was chasing her. She had been drinking and was just she was not in her right state of mind. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And so that was something that just jumped out at me as something that was a little bit crazy, definitely not the norm. 3 o'clock in the morning in Orlando.
All right, excellent. David?
Well, here at UCF, we have nothing crazy go on in my years. I just want to let you know, our students do nothing crazy. They're perfect.
Nothing I can imagine.
I really can't think of anything that's really specific, that's really out there. Things like the chief mentioned was not out of the norm. A little bit of streaking going on the college campus, perhaps, a number of years ago. People swimming in the reflection pond, probably with less clothing than they should have had on. But nothing too crazy here.
Well, how about just last year we had someone jump into the Rec and Wellness swimming pool from like the top of the Rec and Wellness building because he's a social media guy and he wanted to film it and post it to get views. I mean, we're talking about having to jump over like ground to get to the pool, and if you miss, it's really, really bad. So I didn't actually witness it, but I saw the video and I was blown away, and at the level of, and of course he actually had to break in to the building and go to the roof. I thought that was pretty crazy.
In trouble. He filmed himself getting in trouble.
He did. Oh yeah, that was proof positive that he was the guy who did it, and he got in big trouble. So, and he's no longer going to school here, by the way. Imagine that.
Really cool. So I got a question in the chat here asking, you find a lot of stolen golf carts? And if so, how many would you say you see in a year? And or do people just take them out on joy rides and bring them back to their lawful place?
And yes, we do have some stolen golf carts. Not as many as you might think, but we do have some. And I would this is just total guess, but I'm going to say, we have between 4 and 8 a year. And it's usually joyride-ish, type activity where someone leaves the keys in the cart and someone sees an opportunity and they take it for a spin. And we almost always find it later somewhere else on campus, usually, against a tree somewhere where somebody ran into a tree. We just had an incident. It's not 2 weeks ago that we had some young men from a neighborhood not far away who decided that they wanted to go into our stadium and ride around in a golf cart. And then they ended up, crashing it into something. And causing some damage, and they were all here on bicycles, and we ended up catching them. We called their parents, and the parents came and got them. One was the father of, I think, 4 of them. I think there were like 8 of them total. And of course that's, and these are middle school and high schoolers on campus, and deciding that would be a fun thing to do. So yeah, that it does happen, but it's not as frequent as you might think. I think it's become less and less as people have been more careful with their keys.
Yeah.
We've had less of that. Before, people used to leave keys in it all the time. Now they've gotten wise and they've taken the keys with them.
So do you all, I don't know if they're still coming back, but the bicycles and the little scooters, did you enjoy those as police officers?
We had, all right, I see Dave is wanting to jump in. Go ahead.
Enjoyed them.
My
My college age kids enjoyed them quite a bit. So they thought they were the funnest new addition to the university. As far as from a medical standpoint and from a risk standpoint, they were definitely a problem as far as people being hurt.
Sorry if you all can hear that. I got a phone call. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah, so that's been the challenge is people being hurt on the scooters. As far as the policing side, we didn't have too much of it, but I know they had a lot of medical calls from them and injuries.
Excellent. So we're coming up on the end of the hour, and I don't want to hold you guys too much longer, but the real question I want to ask you all, with it being the holiday season right now, what are some tips? What are some safety tips that we should know about going into the holiday season?
Well, first, I think scams are one of the top threats. And if again, we always say if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And so if I think eBay and some of these other sites where there's, it's a private seller of goods, I would look at that carefully before, I hit the purchase button, because there are a lot of people who've gotten taken for rides. And we've had everything from puppy scams to game stations. And now, we have this, what's the latest game station that's out now? PlayStation 5.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and that's like one of the top items for this Christmas. And there are people who are desperate to get them, and they're not using wisdom, and so they're getting taken. And they'll get an old PlayStation and instead of the more recent, high tech one. So, but that's one of the things that I would say. Dave, you want to jump in?
Okay.
Sure. First, make sure that your belongings are not visible in a vehicle, right? So some of those normal holiday type ways to keep yourself safe. If you're going home for the holidays and aren't going to stay at the university, take those valuables with you that you normally might leave if you're going away for a few days. And I think probably the most important thing, which is not necessarily a policing thing, is, pay attention. Well, the policing thing is pay attention to your surroundings, but pay attention to the people around you too, right? We know that during the holiday seasons, people feel the loneliest. They have the most going on. Just realize the people around you, your friends, your family, and the students who go home for the holidays, that these people may not have a place to go home to. And so be aware that there's a lot going on in people's lives. Be a little more patient and take the time to check on your friends and family, because especially during the pandemic where we can't really connect and see each other. So I think that's probably the most important thing, because there's so much going on this year. Let's not forget as we go home that some people don't have that support system around them, and check on your friends and those people you care about, and even check on those people you don't know. Maybe you might touch someone and make a difference in their life.
Look at you. Making the show end on such a high note with the caring and things along those lines. I appreciate it. Well, you guys have always been phenomenal. I appreciate having the opportunity to kind of hang out with you all for the hour and talk with you. I think you gave some really good information with regards to how to stay safe, and just what you're all doing in terms of building community. and that the doors are always open. We didn't talk a little bit about the satellite station over in the Student Union, but that was one of the reasons why it was built, to help to kind of build community as well. And so anything on that before we check out?
Just really quick, I think when it was first brought up as an idea, I think some of our students were concerned and they didn't know what to expect. But now that it's been in place for, coming up on 2 years, it's really been a resource for our students, and they've gotten to know our officers. It's right across from Mass, and they've formed a relationship, and it's been a very positive thing for both the university and for the police department. So so it's been great to see that that resource, because it's a student resource as well. We have a classroom, we have students who come in, they study there, they hold meetings there, and we are, again, I said it earlier on an earlier call, Sir Robert Peel is the founder of modern policing. He was the Metro London Police Department from the 1800s. The people are the police, and the police are the people, and we are the campus, and we're part of the campus. We are, your friends, your family, your neighbors. We go to school here. Now our kids go to school here. So we're invested, and we want to be there. And this is another resource that we're giving back to our campus community.
Just real quick, how many police officers would you say are actual graduates of UCF? You have that number?
I'm going to go half. I'm going to say we have 80 police officers. I'm going to say about 40 at a minimum are graduates. And I'd say that's pretty close.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of today's broadcast. I really had a good time talking with you all. I hope I didn't give you too many hard questions, and you guys kind of shine really a bright light on what you all do, especially when it comes to working with Black and Brown communities and building relationships with individuals. So I appreciate that. So it being the 23rd, on the 25th, we have a show with young kids. We're going to bring back the kids on this coming Friday, and we're going to enjoy the holiday. We're looking forward to kind of hearing their antics and seeing how they are looking forward to Christmas as well as the New Year, and what they've been dealing with the pandemic. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank the UCF Foundation Office for being partners with us and making sure that this podcast goes off very well. And I just, again, thank our guests today for just being your brilliant selves and allowing us to see a different side of you all, even though you're wearing uniforms and wearing microphones and all those other different things on your chest. We appreciate you all for today's conversation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kent. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, no worries. Take care.
All clear.